There are some jobs in the world that only a few people are capable of doing. One such job, which we'll see in this story, involves men who dive to depths of nearly 1,000 feet to repair the pipelines that carry oil and internet connections across the globe. But one day, something happens that changes everything. The story begins in Scotland. In the opening scene, we see Chris, who's trying to convince his wife before leaving for this dangerous assignment. He won't return for 2 months. His wife is clearly unhappy about it. She knows how risky this job is. But Chris reassures her. He's an expert, and this is all he knows how to do. After much convincing, she finally agrees, and Chris says his goodbyes before heading to the port. Neither of them has any idea how life-changing the next few days will be. At the ship, Chris meets his fellow divers, the men who'll be going down with him. Their leader is Deck, a seasoned professional who gathers the team and briefs them. He explains that winter is coming, and people will need gas to power their heaters, so fixing the pipeline is absolutely critical. This might be their only chance. Deck divides them into 3 teams and tells them they'll spend the next few days inside pressurized containers. After that, they'll be sent down, nearly 1,000 feet below the surface. He instructs them to focus, follow orders, and promises to guide them from above. If anything goes wrong, they'll be pulled back up immediately. Everyone listens carefully, taking the job seriously. Once Deck finishes his instructions, the gates of the containers are sealed, and the oxygen levels inside are adjusted to ensure they can breathe comfortably. The ship begins its journey toward the North Sea, one of the most dangerous diving locations in the world. Speaking through the comms, Deck warns the divers. We're heading into the North Sea now. Keep this in mind. Just a few miles below the surface, it's pitch black, surrounded by dangerous sharks and an eerie silence. So get the job done quickly, and don't forget to decompress before coming up, or your organs could rupture. Deck, being a bit of a joker, teases Duncan, saying he's too old now and needs to pay extra attention. Duncan shoots back that they're the same age and have been friends for a long time. Meanwhile, another diver, Dale, exercises alone. He prefers to spend time by himself before a dive. It helps him focus. Above Deck, Deck watches everything closely. One small mistake could cost lives. During dinner, Duncan shares memories from his early diving days. He admits he was terrified during his first descent, overwhelmed by the crushing darkness. But now, strangely, he finds peace in it. The ship speeds up as it nears its destination. To pass the time, Chris watches old videos of his wife, finding comfort in the moments. Over the next few days, Chris and Dale learn more about Duncan. This dive might be his last. His company wants to retire him, saying he's too old. But Duncan insists he still has a decade of diving left in him. Chris feels bad, encouraging him to listen to his heart and keep going. But Dale has a different perspective. He believes that eventually, all human divers will be replaced. New advanced machines are coming, ones that won't need human hands at all. Finally, after days at sea, they reach the dive site right on schedule. But a fierce storm brews outside. The ship is stabilized in place using a dynamic positioning system, meaning it will hold steady no matter how rough the weather gets. Deck gives the final order. It's time to dive. All 3 divers begin preparing. Duncan reminds Chris and Dale not to forget their essentials: knife, compass, and torch, items more valuable than their lives down there. One by one, they enter a special diving pod called the Dive Whale, a small, pressurized cabin designed to carry them 400 feet below the ocean. From there, they'll descend the remaining depth on their own. The Dive Whale is lowered by a thick wire, but the rough sea causes it to sway violently. Chris starts to feel nervous. Duncan notices and asks, "What's wrong? Is this your first time feeling like this?" Chris doesn't respond. At 400 feet, the pod stops. Now they must continue the descent manually. From above, Deck gives the signal. Duncan sends Dale first, equipped with a high-tech helmet connected by a cable to maintain communication with the surface team. But as soon as Dale steps out, he realizes he can't see anything. It's pitch black. He can't even see Chris standing just a few feet away. The real work begins now. Chris and Dale start repairing the pipes deep underwater. But just 20 minutes in, the ship's dynamic positioning system fails, the system that keeps the ship stable over one spot. Although rare, this failure is extremely dangerous. Deck immediately orders Duncan to call the divers back up. Dale receives the message and stops everything to begin surfacing. But Chris is stuck inside the pipeline and struggling to get out. Despite his efforts, he can't free himself. Dale begins shouting for him to hurry, telling him there's very little time left. Chris still can't move. Dale rushes to help, manages to release Chris's wire, and starts pulling him up. But suddenly, Chris's line gets tangled in the very pipe they were fixing. Fear sets in. What if he's stuck here forever? His heartbeat races. Dale realizes the line is under extreme tension and could snap at any moment. He calmly tells Chris, "Listen to me. If the wire breaks, turn on the bailout system in your helmet. It'll give you 15 extra minutes of oxygen. But most importantly, stay where you are. That'll help me find you." Above the surface, everyone is shocked. The system had been tested multiple times. How could it fail now? And then snap. Chris's cable breaks under pressure. The real nightmare begins. Chris begins to panic. He's only human, and he starts fearing for his life. Dale returns to the surface, deeply shaken and afraid they might lose Chris. Duncan tells Deck to drop the anchor and save their partner. But the captain refuses. "This is the North Sea," he says. "Beneath us are pipelines worth billions. Dropping the anchor could destroy them, and the company won't forgive that." Deck is torn. Meanwhile, Chris, drifting in the darkness, must reach the manifold, a kind of protective cage that shields the pipes from whales and sharks. If he doesn't, he'll be lost forever. But his oxygen is running out. On the ship, one operator offers to fix the dynamic position manually. Deck quickly gives the order. Dale is told to rest. He just surfaced, and returning so soon could be fatal. But down below, Chris is still fighting. He lights a flare, hoping someone will see it. But no one comes. Determined not to die, he struggles to climb toward the manifold. But he's almost out of oxygen, and his body is getting weaker. Still, he tells himself, keep trying. He knows if he gives up, he'll vanish in the ocean forever. Finally, he reaches the structure, a glimmer of hope. But just as he gets there, he begins to pass out. Tears well up in his eyes. He remembers his promise to his wife, to return for Christmas. That memory gives him the strength to hold on. At last, the dynamic system is restored. The ship repositions itself above the manifold. Duncan reminds Deck about a diver who was lost the previous year. The company called off the search to save money. All his mother received was a box of his belongings. This time, he says, we can't make that mistake. Deck agrees. They send a robot down to search around the manifold, but it finds nothing. Deck takes control himself and guides the robot closer, and there he is, Chris, barely alive. But there's a problem. The robot can't lift him. They discover that Chris tied himself to the manifold, just in case he died, so at least his body would be found. Moved by his bravery, Deck salutes him and sends Dale back down. Despite the risks, Dale dives again. But Chris's body has become heavy and lifeless. It's not easy. Dale is wearing a heavy suit himself, yet with all his strength, he pulls Chris up and carries him into the pressurized cabin. When they remove Chris's helmet, his skin and face are blue. He hasn't breathed in over 30 minutes. He only had oxygen for 10. The rest of the time, he lay there unconscious. Duncan refuses to give up. He performs CPR continuously, praying for a miracle. And then a heartbeat. Chris's body starts to respond. But he seems like a living corpse. His heart is beating, but there's no sign of brain activity. They fear his brain may be gone. Dale kneels beside him and says, I know you can hear me, friend. Please say something. No response. Duncan is in tears. He can't bear to witness another death. And then, Chris speaks. A sigh of relief spreads across the room. The entire ship erupts in celebration. No one can believe it. He survived the impossible. Chris slowly opens his eyes and whispers, What happened to me? Duncan smiles through his tears. You died, but God brought you back. A month later, after full recovery, the divers return home. Though the mission failed, they are happy because they saved their friend. Chris is finally allowed to go home. When his wife sees him, she runs and hugs him tightly, surprised to see him back so soon. She asks, Was the mission not completed? Chris replies, One of my teammates, his line broke. We had to call it off. She asks, Is he okay now? Chris stays silent, but his expression says everything. She realizes he was the one. With tears in her eyes, she hugs him again. Chris gently tells her, God doesn't let anything happen to us. He'll never let me leave you. Let's go home. And with that, the story ends. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.